Hi guys, I just wanted to go over chapter 12 real quick. I never really got any specific feedback from this class, but I got feedback from my other classes, so I figured maybe some of you are secretly hiding your obsession with my videos. Who knows? And if you don't find them helpful, then you don't need to watch them. But I'm trying to do my best to help as many of you as I can, so hopefully a few of you find these helpful. We're going to be reviewing chapter 12 just briefly. It's on spinal cord and spinal nerves. It's really straightforward, but there's a lot of extra information in this chapter. So I'm actually kind of glad that I picked back up with my videos on this. The general structure of the spinal cord is really straightforward. Understanding, the relationship between the actual spinal cord and the vertebrae, that's super important, where everything is, how everything fits in all of those foramen. Very, very important. On page 404, you'll see a diagram relating the sensory and motor portion of your nervous system together in the spinal cord. It is fundamental to understand how the nervous system works, to understand how that is put together. So please understand how that is put together, diagram it out, take two little shoestrings and see if you can make a model and identify which part is which. Sometimes when you think creatively outside the box, instead of just staring at the picture in front of you and memorizing a picture, actually recreating a model or a diagram is much more effective to the learning process. Same thing with page 405, where you actually see the process in hand and how everything is going from the sensory up through the spinal cord and then back down through the motor in terms of a reflex or a response. So that's really important to understand. We actually get into the reflex on page 406. There's a diagram of that stretch reflex, like the patellar tendon reflex that most of you are familiar with, and you'll have a chance probably in lab to play around with some of these reflexes, but just be aware that you're probably not going to be able to test your real reflexes if you are conscious that you're testing your reflexes, because your consciousness can kind of override some of those reflexes. So you kind of want to surprise yourself or surprise someone else when you're testing their reflexes. Otherwise, you're not going to get a good assessment. That's a side note. Anyways, back to the stretch reflex. It's important to understand all of the different components of that entire reflex arc. You get into it on the Golgi tendon reflex as well on page 407. And then withdrawal reflex, the cross extensor reflex, how if you're picking your foot up on one side, then the other side of your body is going to remain extended. You're not going to pick both feet up at the same time, because then you would fall. That's the concept of this cross extensor reflex. Then you get into all of the different nerves and the structure of the nerve, how the nerves are put together, and they're kind of grouped in these things called a plexus. And these plexuses are based on where they're coming out, where they're originating out of your spinal cord. You don't need to know the names of all of the nerves, and that's what the next couple of pages goes through: the axillary nerve, the radial nerve, etc., etc. You do need to know the names of the plexus and the general names of the nerves. So in other words, I'm not going to ask you specifically where in the body does the radial nerve innervate. However, I might say which of the following nerves is not part of the cervical plexus or not part of the lumbar plexus. So you have to understand that the majority of these nerves are named after the region of the body where they're located, and so understanding that generality will help you understand which plexus they fit into. There's a couple tricky ones in there, but I'm not trying to trick you on anything. I just want you to know the general role of each plexus and where each of them are in the body. If you have questions about that, please feel free to ask. But that's pretty much all there is for this chapter, the different nerves, and then it just goes into the different disorders related to the nerves, which is important to know, obviously, since most of you are going into clinical settings. But please let me know if you have any questions on chapter 12, and keep up the hard work. See ya.